Welcome to Compass Points, the weekly podcast for CompassKnox.com. CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. If you'd like to learn more about the topics discussed on today's podcast, go to CompassKnox.com and subscribe for in-depth coverage and much more.
Welcome to Compass Points, a podcast about Knoxville and Knox County government, politics, business, education, just about anything else that grabs our attention. I'm Scott Barker. I am the editor of Compass, which is a subscription-based website and newsletter where we report on all those things and more. You can find us at CompassKnox.com. I am joined today by a special guest, Mike Cohen, the public relations legend of Knoxville. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing fine, and also, as always, Seth Barber's here. He's our engineer, producer, jack of all trades. Seth, it's time for your 3-day-old weather report.
I'm in heaven weather-wise right now. It's cool mornings, warm afternoons, cool evenings. That's the centerpiece of perfect weather to me. I can't, gotta love leaving the house with a sweater. Being able to be out in the yard and not cook. I like it.
All right. Well, you get a raise, by the way, because of this good weather. So there you go.
Awesome.
Of course, you get a pay cut in the winter, but hey.
Well, take it.
All right. Well, Mike is going to sit in with us for the whole show, and we are going to get right into it. We have several things to go over about what happened last week in Knoxville and Knox County. The Knoxville Mayor Indya Kincannon has helped form a group to try to sell the proposed sales tax increase that is on the city election ballot this November. We'll talk about that. There's been a big big investigation into the misuse of the drug fund at the Knox County Sheriff's Office. We have the head of the narcotics unit at KCSO has pleaded guilty to misusing those funds, and has kind of implicates the former sheriff J.J. Jones in as being a recipient of the largesse that abuse produced. I will also talk about the delays in the consideration of sale of a portion of Chilhowee Park to Emerald Youth Foundation for a youth athletics and activities center there. There's a lot of opposition, and the city officials have kind of put that on hold to try to sell that a little bit better. We're going to start out with the big news of the week, and that was the city primary. That was on election day was on Tuesday, and we had 5 races. They're all district races. We had the results. We talked to most everybody. Mike, what were your takeaways from the results on Tuesday?
I think in most of the races, who is going to win in the general election is fairly obvious. I mean, I think in District 1, Karen Adams, who I supported financially, won by a big enough margin that it's difficult, even with a larger turnout, because of voting on a sales tax referendum. I think Karen in the first, Nathan Honeycutt in the second look like pretty clear winners. The third will be a little more competitive, but Lloyd looks like he has a pretty solid lead.
Yeah, that was one thing. There were 3 races that had more than 2 candidates, and the top 2 finishers go on to the general election. There are three races that had more than 2 candidates. Karen Adams in the first district, which is South Knoxville and Fort Sanders,
correct,
got more than 50% of the vote. She was really outpaced the other 3 candidates in that race.
And the reality is, sorry to interrupt, but the reality is they need to change things. If there's a race, even a primary, a nonpartisan race, so you're not going to, if somebody wins more than 50% of the vote, that race ought to be over.
Yeah, they tried to change that.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, and when they were trying to react to the state law and change the voting system, voting method on that, and it failed. But that is something that a lot of people talk about in council. Unlike the mayor's race, when the mayor runs, the mayor gets more than 50% of the vote in the primary. It's all over with.
Right. Why should the rules be different for city council? Then the other question that leads you to, not to get off on a tangent, is why do we have city elections scheduled when they are? Why don't we line them up with state elections or county elections and have a much higher turnout and a lower cost to the taxpayers?
Well, that comes up a lot too.
It does.
There are a lot of people who look at that. You can look at the referendum last year that was on the election, the election process, and we had the turnout was exponentially higher than it is in the regular city elections in odd numbered years. So it's a good point. But anyway, so Karen Adams is one of those. She kind of fits the mold of the most city council members. So she's someone who's been very active in the community. She serves on the planning commission. She's a little left of center, but basically moderate. And
she has not been terribly pro-development on planning commission. And as you know, I work with a lot of developers. And Karen has not always been pro-development, but it will be interesting to see if she remains that way, because the job of a city council person when it comes to housing questions is very different than the job of a planning commission.
That's true. That is true. Yes, she is one of the planning commissioners who just about always insists that developers meet with neighboring property owners and try to work out any differences, and where they don't really have to do that, but she is big on that. And that's not just a left of center stance. Tim Hill, who's on the planning commission, and is the same way. He's a Republican, and but he's also a moderate like she is. So.
It's not required, but it wouldn't be a bad idea if it was, because the fact of the matter is, just sitting down in a room together and talking, people don't always expect to win, but people expect to be heard.
Yeah. One of the things about the District 1 race that I thought was interesting is it provided the closest head-to-head battle in that for second place of any of the races in the city, and that was Becky Jones, who is a conservative, very big pro-police candidate. Defeated. She got second place by 22 votes over Lindsay Rumko, who is a very, very progressive candidate. So they were neck and neck. That was very, very close. So Becky Jones is going to try to go up against Adams. Of course, Adams you would think would stand to benefit from Rumko not being in there, because
absolutely
her people would vote for Adams.
If you supported somebody who was really liberal and your candidate doesn't win, you're not going to then go, well, heck, I'll just vote for somebody real conservative. You're not going to do a 180 on your basic beliefs. So it puts Karen in a pretty good place. She had over 50% to start with. And, the turnout was so low that you have to think most of the people that voted in the primary, unless they just voted for a particular candidate who's now out of it because of a personal relationship, most of these people are like we are. They're super voters. Right. We vote in every election.
Right. And you're absolutely right there. And generally speaking, the general election will be about twice the turnout as the primary, but the primary voters are the core. And you can go no further than the second district, which is West Knoxville, where Nathan Honeycutt just blew Melody Watts out of the water. There was only two person race, but he just blew her out of the water.
Yep, on
nearly 80% of the vote. And that again speaks to the why are we having a general election anyway? But if you could if you did sit out an election, and I'm like you, I'm an advocate of voting every chance you get. I voted in the primary, even though the district I live in only has two active candidates on the ballot. But this one, two candidates on the ballot.
You're in the fighting fourth, aren't you?
Yes, I am in the fighting fourth. But you could sit out the election in the primary, and it wouldn't really
same two
really matter because the same two will be running in the general election. But I voted anyway. You voted anyway.
I did not. I'm in the 5th district.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
I will get to vote in the next election, but I did not get to vote because my council member Charles Thomas was not up. My seat will be up in 2 years.
That's true. I forgot my geography for a moment.
You do know where I live.
I do. I know. So and keep that in mind, buddy. Let me tell you, I know where you live. Anyway, but that was one race, and in the second district and the 4th district, as far as raw numbers go, they had the highest turnouts of any district. Although the 1st district has many, it also has the largest number of registered voters, and the actual percentage of the turnout was lower there than in any other district. So that could kind of cut both ways. But anyway, Honeycutt really had a strong showing. It's difficult to see that Watts has a pathway to make up a significant portion of that ground between 6 weeks.
Some conservatives I've talked to about it, especially Eric Whitetar, who runs a lot of those really conservative campaigns, they just believe there is going to be a lot of discussion and a huge turnout because of the sales tax referendum, and that people that they believe, I think, that people that are turning out to vote against a tax increase will line up with more conservative candidates. I disagree with them, and I told them that. I don't think we're going to have.
I think everybody hates it.
I don't think we're going to have a much larger turnout. I think we're going to have a larger turnout, but. Have you guys met anybody that thinks that the sales tax referendum has much of a chance of passing?
I haven't talked to very many people who do think it has much of a chance of passing, but
I haven't either.
Will turnout in that will be larger because just what you said, the 5th district voters will be able to go out and vote on the sales tax referendum, and that's one of the questions going into the general election is how much of an impact that will have on these candidates. Now, most of the candidates, not all, most of the candidates are against. They say they're going to vote against the sales tax referendum question. Now, just about all of them say, "Hey, what they want to spend the money on is great, which is infrastructure and parks and affordable housing, those kinds of things." They love. It's $47 million a year. As an estimate, is what it would bring in, and people really like what they plan to spend it on, but they don't want the money to spend because they don't want to raise the tax, and that's true for a lot of people. And Honeycutt is one who's more pro property tax increase than others. Watts will probably, I would bet that she would try to make that a big issue, but the lead, Honeycutt's lead is so big.
What do you like?
It was almost 80%.
Almost 80%.
Yeah, it was big.
Even if the people that voted elsewhere break 3-1 the other way, he still wins.
Yeah. Now in the 3rd district, we had is one of those cases where we had 4 candidates. And the top vote getter who's Doug Lloyd, is a more conservative candidate. He is, you mentioned Eric Wider, he's working with him. And that district is Knoxville's purple district. It is
currently represented by Seema Singh, who wouldn't line up politically with either of the two people voters chose to go into the general election.
Right. Well, and she was one of the reasons that local Republicans got Elaine Davis to push through the bill that changed the election deal, because
she finished second in the district and first citywide.
Right. Yeah.
Used to happen a lot in the 6th under Victor Ashe too.
Yes, it did. Singh is very progressive, much more progressive than you would think, looking at the presidential and state legislative results from that district. That's Northwest.
But reasonable and more moderate about development and some of the needs the city faces.
Yeah.
When she first got elected, I believe she was a wild liberal commie pinko. And I took some of my developer clients to meet her, and they're all like, I don't even know why I'm bothering to do this. And they walked out of spending an hour with Seema and went, she's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I think she's...
she listens, and she is reasonable, and is willing to compromise, which is a unique trait these days.
It is
in politics. But Lloyd didn't get half the vote. He had a plurality. It was a strong one, but second place finisher Frank Ramey, who is the more Democratic. He's a moderate. He's by no stretch of the imagination a flaming progressive, but he is.
He went to the Democratic gathering.
Yeah.
Election night.
Mm-hmm.
I'm told I wasn't there, but
I was there. He was there.
Okay, I was in Dallas actually. But I think a lot of Democrats have a hard time wrapping their heads around the fact that he makes his living selling ammunition.
Yes, I know they do. They when he first announced he was going to run, and people didn't know anything about him other than that. The Democrats I knew were shaking their heads, saying, "I don't know who we're going to support up there." Well, he actually. He uses Act Blue, as far as his fundraising stuff, and he's, he is the closest thing to a Democrat or progressive that they've got running up there. But he is very much pro Second Amendment. He's against the property or the sales tax increase. He's within striking distance.
I think part of the question in the 3rd district will be whether or not Democrats may go, I don't like what Frank Ramey does for a living, but I'd rather have him than a true conservative.
Yeah.
And end up backing him reluctantly.
Yeah. He is within striking distance. He's not, he wasn't blown out like Watts was in the in the 2nd district. So
were you surprised that Ivan Harmon did as poorly as he did?
Not really.
Okay.
One of the reasons is, of course, Ivan has been around for a very, very, very long time.
He's one of the only people I know that's hit a triple. He's been on the school board, the city council, and the county commission.
Right. And, he's hitting for the cycle there. Actually, he was on city council before too. So, I wasn't surprised. Ivan's been around a very long time. I think people. First of all, the people who are his contemporaries who are still around and voting. Of course, he's 73 or 74. He's a little long in the tooth.
Yep.
And they're not. They're sad to say that people who grew up voting for Harmon in that district, a lot of them have moved on. And I say that as someone who's getting close to the age of where you expect me to move on too. So, not casting stones at our seniors. But that I don't think he had a real compelling message, and he had Doug Lloyd running against him. And Doug Lloyd is a very well known businessman in Northwest Knoxville.
Yeah.
he's been very active in the community as well. So I think that and he's younger, and so I think and a fresher.
Well, two things about
face.
Two things. I think you're absolutely right. Two things about Ivan. First of all, you put him with a group of people, even people that are upset about something, like when he worked for the city or anybody else. He's as good with a group of people as anybody I've ever met. He's just really, really personable and listens well and does well. But the other thing is, and I think there's some history that'll prove this out here, and that is, people don't think you move forwards by going backwards. People that have served in the past, I think, have a hard time coming back. I think even without the indictment we'll talk about later, or the guilty plea, I think it's JJ got beat the last time he ran for sheriff. I don't think people want to go back. I think they want new blood, fresh faces, and want to move forward.
Yeah, that happened to former Sheriff Tim Hutchison, too. Once term limits, he left because of term limits. It was, that was the end of his...
City Councilwoman Jean Teague, who was on council for probably more than 20 years, and then she had to sit out because of term limits, I think.
Yes.
But then after a term, she could run again, and when she ran again, after having won that seat hands down without much of a challenge for years and years and years, she got beat when she tried to run again.
Yeah. That was... so I think you're right. I think all that plays into Harmon's showing there. We'll move on to my home district, District 4, which is North Knoxville, east of Broadway for the most part. And we had Matthew DeBardelaben, whose name I mangle at least once.
That's why I just call him Matthew.
Matthew.
Can't get the last name right.
And I call him DeBard. He's Shakespeare. He kind of has that Shakespeare look too. You know? So I call him DeBard.
He's an interesting guy, and he has... I told his campaign manager once that I thought Matthew's social media was all aimed at people in their 20s and 30s and not at old people. I'm not in that district, so I couldn't have voted anyway, but not older people who vote in greater numbers.
Right. Yet he's still
solid. Won
the district fairly handily. Of course, this was one where there were three people on the ballot, but it was really a two-person race because Jane George
had pulled out.
She dropped out, but her name remained on the ballot, and she got a few votes.
John, she got like 7%.
Yeah. That wouldn't have been a difference maker, but it was still 7%. Jeff Tallman finished second. One thing that's kind of interesting. Jeff is a conservative. He is another one who consults with Wider on campaign matters. They both live in the urban part of North Knoxville. DeBardelaben lives in Old North Knoxville. Tallman lives, or is supposed to live in the 4th and Gill. Our listeners know that he had a residency issue that has been resolved. But DeBardelaben just cleaned up in that precinct.
Yes.
And it was his strongest precinct, which is, his people, I'm sure, will be saying, hey, the people that know Jeff Tallman the best voted for Matthew, and
yes. And he had the backing of current city council member Lauren Ryder, who I still think is, if there weren't term limits, Lauren would be in for a third term. I think she's very popular in her district. She's good about listening to people, and if she says, I think I'm for X, it doesn't mean she's for X for the rest of her life. She can she can see that I was wrong about something and change her mind. I think she's going to be an interesting vote on the Chilhowee thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And and DeBardelaben was better in the more urban part of the district. Everything below the 640 loop and close to Broadway. He still did well in Fountain City. Now Tallman did better in the area around Easttown Mall.
Yeah,
former
Easttown Mall.
Former Easttown Mall. No one talks about it being the Amazon facility, but the Alsabel Spring Hill neighborhood, was a strong point for him.
Yeah.
So, which is you would see that is also an area that is a little bit more conservative in the city that in other elections, in more partisan elections.
Tallman thinks he is within striking distance. If he's in the outer suburbs of striking distance, if he's in there, I think he's counting on a huge anti-sales tax turnout that will support him. Although, he posted something online that said, vote for Jeff Tallman is a vote against the sales tax increase. And I actually went in and commented, I think it was on Facebook, and I said, that's simply not true. When this council election takes place, people will be voting on the sales tax referendum. Who's on city council after this election has nothing to do with the sales tax referendum.
Yeah, that's one thing. The city council candidates have as much of a say in the sales tax referendum as any other voter. It's
on the ballot at the same time. It's on the ballot
if the sales tax increase passes, no matter what their opinion was, they inherit it. If it doesn't pass, they inherit that situation as well.
Correct.
So, but everybody asks them about it. They want to know, and it might speak to them philosophically on where they stand, kind of give you a hint. But if you're voting for a candidate based on their position on the sales tax increase, expecting that means that the sales, that's a better chance of the sales tax increase referendum going your way or not.
I mean, I could see running and simply saying, look, I will be for lower taxes. Yeah. I'm not going to vote for the sales tax referendum. I wouldn't vote to raise property taxes. I wouldn't look at another sales tax referendum in the future. Yeah. I will be for keeping taxes where they are or lower. That would be more accurate than saying voting for me is voting against the sales tax.
True. But Tallman's been kind of that way throughout the campaign. He in his one of his financial disclosures, and we pointed this out in the podcast. He listed Mayor Kincannon as giving him an in-kind contribution of uncalculable value,
priceless
value, by proposing the sales tax increase. Yeah. So he is counting on that, and but yeah, he is on the edge of striking distance.
Matthew cannot act like he's got this on the.
No, he can't. But the other thing that Matthew can take from this is the people who voted for Jane George. You assume they are going to vote in the general election as well. Jane George is a liberal Democrat who ran for Congress. If they vote in the general election too, he is more likely to receive their votes than Tallman.
Absolutely. That's absolutely correct.
The last race is one that doesn't fall neatly into those categories. It's a 6th district race. 6th district is everybody thinks about it as being just East Knoxville. It's not just East Knoxville. Also includes downtown,
Sutherland Avenue out to Hollywood,
all the way to Marble City. Yes. Yeah. So it is the only district that has a border with every other district in the city. It's the most
and I should
socioeconomically diverse district in the city.
And I should disclose that I gave money to Stan Johnson, his organization SEED. I'm part of a team working with SEED on an affordable housing project in the western part of Knox County.
All right, duly noted. And Johnson, this was a 5-person race. Johnson finished second. A very tight race with Denzel Grant, who is stepping down at the end of the month as the executive director of Turn Up Knox, the violence interruption group. So we have 2 nonprofit heads running against each other, even though Grant's going to be a former, just in a matter of day. In fact, by the time most people listen to this, he will have already, his stepping down would have already been effective.
Correct.
In effect. So, but they each finished with about a third of the vote.
Yep.
Grant got more. Grant's strength is more inside the heart of East Knoxville. I want to say it was from the eastern border of it, on the other side of Chilhowee Park, down almost to where the stadium is. The Johnson was stronger in Morningside, and this is an area of the district that I think that candidates traditionally in the 6th district have easily been able to ignore, and that's downtown.
Correct.
Downtown's population has soared.
It's about 4,000 people now.
Yeah,
3,000 and 4,000.
It's really soared, and we don't know what's going to happen when it gets redistricted after 2030. But for now, it's a large. It's got a large population, a large engaged population that votes generally. But I think the
large, engaged, and a sense of entitled population.
Absolutely. So very different from some of the East Knoxville neighborhoods. A lot of the East Knoxville neighborhoods are some of the poorest in the city, and so face a lot of challenges. That's where the highest concentration of African Americans is.
Correct.
in the city, and you wouldn't say that about downtown Knoxville. And I know from talking to people who are engaged and live downtown that nobody hollered at them about things. So there's those votes are up for grabs. But also, there was a third of the votes that didn't go to either candidate.
Yeah.
And
it's very much up for grabs.
Absolutely, and it's going to be I think Johnson gets a lot of support from people who are really active in politics, and he's been around and has played the game a
long
bit.
Time. He was on the planning commission for years. He's been involved for a long time.
And Grant is more of a he was kind of an activist. He was a Black Lives Matter activist for when that started up, but decided that cooperation was better than confrontation and started doing stuff. But his background is very different, and so if this were a citywide contest in the general election, the way they were up until this year, I think that Johnson would easily be favored because he is probably better known by people in other parts of the city. But since this is a district only race, it's anybody's guess as to who this will be a good one to watch in the general election, which will come up in 6 weeks. It's going to be pretty quick.
It'll be very interesting to see if the Chilhowee Park thing is settled by then or not.
Yes, it should be. That's the we were going to talk about the I was going to talk about the sales tax thing separately, but we really don't need to because we talked about it all throughout this, talking about the candidates. But the Chilhowee Park thing, which is another topic I wanted to get to, is a big deal, especially in
huge
the 6th district.
It's probably bigger to the part of the district that's truly, as the part of the district where Stan Johnson did not do as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably a bigger deal to them because Chilhowee Park is physically located part where it's an important part of their life every day. I think people downtown and out Western Avenue and Hollywood that are also part of that district probably don't think about Chilhowee Park.
Yeah, well, for those who are listening who didn't listen last week, that need a little catching up, there's a portion of Chilhowee Park south of Magnolia Avenue. The north part is the main part of Chilhowee Park, where everybody thinks of as Chilhowee Park. The south side, the city owns close to 13 acres, It used to be the Tennessee Valley Fair Midway, but it's not used for that anymore. It is fenced off. It's empty space essentially.
Yep.
The fair uses it as kind of a setup area for 2 weeks out of every year, and that's it.
Right.
Otherwise, it is not used pretty much ever. It's a piece of property really that nobody really thinks about. Nobody has thought about. And I've never heard anybody say we ought to do the city ought to do this or that with that property. It's just kind of been sitting there empty. And then so the city decides because they were approached by the Business and Neighborhood Association in Burlington,
right,
and Emerald Youth Foundation about Emerald Youth Foundation building this facility there. It's a sports fields, gymnasiums, meeting spaces, a health clinic, modeled on a similar facility in Lonsdale,
which has done very well.
It has done very well. It is an integral part of the Lonsdale community now. In fact, they have the Lonsdale Homecoming.
Yeah,
there.
It's interesting because there's a lot of controversy over what to do with that land. I don't think there's any controversy about the quality of work and commitment to the community from Emerald Avenue. Steve Diggs has walked the walk for a long time in this community and done a lot of good work.
Yeah.
And there are questions about process and whether or not that's the best use, but I haven't really heard very many people, if any, be critical of Emerald itself.
They're not. Yeah, nobody's critical of the work. There are people who, don't like it that the city would be selling public land to a private, a private religious organization, because they are a faith-based organization. Although their track record in Lonsdale is anybody can use the property. It's like a park.
Correct.
In the sense that anybody can use the property as long as it's doesn't coincide with the portion of the property doesn't coincide with something they're doing. I mean, if they have a soccer league game on one of the fields, you can't go on that field. But if there's an unused field, you can go out there and kick around soccer ball or throw
you don't have to
whatever.
do anything religious to play in their soccer league.
Right? Yeah, it's not. There's no religious test.
No, anything
like that. They are a religious organization. They make no apologies for that, as they shouldn't have to apologize for being a religious organization. But nobody really has. There are several concerns about this. One is that this is a piece of public property. It is part of Chilhowee Park, even though it's separated by Magnolia Avenue. It's said this before on here, and people have a hard time wrapping their brains around it. I did too. It's really technically not a park. It is an event venue. It's not managed by the Parks and Recreation Departments. It is managed by
same people that run the convention center.
Same people that run the convention center and the Civic Coliseum. So it is, it is different. Although in the public mind, it is a city park. And
yes,
there is a master plan was developed at the end of the teens that calls for it to be more developed in a more park-like manner. And that was done by lots of public input and all. And this is actually part of, the city says this is part of that, the Emerald Youth Foundation thing, because they will be coming in and, putting in ball fields and, a gymnasium with basketball courts and that sort of thing. So, there is an opposition to that. And also the process, a lot of people were taken by surprise by this. Now, I'm going to toot our horn because we reported on this over a year ago,
right?
And now I know that not everyone subscribes to Compass, but
everybody in my family does.
Well, thank you. But it was out there, and
but the city probably didn't do enough. Compass may have done an excellent job.
We're about to get to this.
Okay.
And the one thing is the city council members who said, first I'd heard of it. Well, I believe every single city council member gets Compass. If they don't, somebody they know shares it with them, but they didn't know the timing. And that's one of the things about this. There was outreach to to the Burlington community about the project by Emerald Youth Foundation. But the broader East Knoxville community, who, most of them don't subscribe to Compass, and I wouldn't expect most of anybody to, but they were unaware of this, and people, of course, across the city in general, most of them were unaware of this.
Right.
And so what happened was it came up, it was plopped on the city council agenda that they were going to sell this, and people went crazy because it was the first they'd heard of it, and there wasn't a lot of public outreach, and
that was a mistake.
Yeah, I think I think that they realized that. In fact, Mayor Kincannon has said, and we should have done that. It came up at the city council meeting 2 weeks ago. Was when it was originally going to be voted on. Gwen McKenzie, who represents East Knoxville on council, and sponsored this in the on the agenda, and is a supporter of the Emerald Youth Foundation project, said, let's hold off, wait 2 weeks, we'll hold a public meeting. They held one last week.
Yep.
Very raucous meeting. A lot of people expressing anger and frustration at the city for not doing that sooner. And now it turns out it's going to be on the agenda for this week's meeting.
And being put off again.
But McKenzie has sent out a statement saying that, I'm going to, propose that we delay it another 2 weeks to do more public input.
And I think because Councilwoman Ryder cannot be there at the next meeting. That's what I'm told.
All right. Hey, you heard it here first, folks. But yeah, that probably would play into it.
It's interesting, as all this came up, I remember that when I first moved here in the early 90s, give away my age, when I first moved here in the early 90s to work for then Mayor Victor Ashe, and we were doing some projects, and I scheduled public hearings to give the community a voice. And going into my first couple, I stupidly believed we were holding these for the benefit of the public, so they felt like they had a chance to have input. And you realize fairly quickly after you hold a couple of those meetings that city government is the beneficiary of those meetings, not the public, because the public knows, like in this case, they know Chilhowee Park and what the neighborhood wants and what would work there and everything way better than government does. They're the people that live there every day. And I completely changed my attitude about public hearings, and I am a huge advocate for having as many of them as you can. And I think in this case, I think the city stumbled. The city administration has done an awful lot of good things, and I don't want to sound like I'm being overly critical of their communication people, but I do not think the city administration does communications very well.
The proof is in what happens. They didn't, this, I think that the outrage that many people feel about this has taken the city by surprise, because they apparently just relied on Emerald to get the public input they did from Burlington area, but
right.
But Chilhowee Park is owned by all of the citizens of Knoxville, not having outreach to other to Morningside or any other neighborhood in East Knoxville was probably contributed to the outrage in a big way.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, when you
and I'll give some credit to former County Commissioner Evelyn Gill. She organized the concern about this fairly well.
Yeah, and it's also one of the there are enough people who, it's not just the usual suspects when you talk about people who don't like things the administration is doing.
Right.
It is a much broader group of people, because there is a subset of the population that does not like Mayor Kincannon. Anything that she proposes, they would be against. But this isn't that. This is there's part of that. That's a key element of it. But this is much broader. There are a lot of concerns about people, especially over transparency and due process.
I mean, I think there are a lot of people. I look at it and I go, to me, and I'm a fan of Emerald, and I look at the Emerald plan and I go, that looks fantastic. I don't live in that part of town. I've invested in a house in that part of town, but I don't spend time. I'm not going to use the facility, and my voice shouldn't matter as much as the voices of the people that live there.
Yeah, absolutely. And somebody was talking to somebody who thought I was leaning one way or another on this. I was, listen, professionally, I don't care what happens because I cover what happens no matter what.
Right.
Personally, I don't use Chilhowee Park. I don't go to the fair. I don't go to the Muse. I don't go to the Zoo Knoxville. Not that those aren't fine places, but I don't have a young child anymore, and that's.
I have grandkids, so the Muse and Zoo Knoxville are on my list.
I don't have grandkids, so I only go there if there's a professional reason to go there. I will not be using the Emerald Youth facility. I don't go to Lonsdale and use the one there. And I, like you, don't live real close. I live close enough to hear the fireworks from the fair.
Yeah.
That's it. But so they're going. Really, I don't have a dog in the fight, and I don't. But looking at it objectively, though, I think you can say that the rollout for this has failed.
Yes.
It doesn't mean the project will fail. Doesn't mean it will fail to get.
Doesn't mean after they go through a better process and people are heard more that they don't end up approving the Emerald Avenue plan.
Thing.
Maybe with some modifications.
Yeah, but even if that happens, I think the big takeaway from future city officials, the city council candidates who are running now, anybody who runs for mayor 2 years from now, should pay heed to, because that was, it's there is an expectation set by you and by Bill Lyons with 25 years ago, that there is an expectation of when there is a big project going on, the public will be consulted.
The best example of running the process well is Market Square.
Absolutely.
Where I think it was Bill Lyons, certainly on point, the city, and also really good at this kind of stuff, KCDC.
Yeah.
And everybody felt engaged. Everybody had opinions. Everybody had some sort of feelings for Market Square. And it's a huge success.
Yeah. And ironically enough, that raised the bar so high.
Yes.
That just about, it's kind of, you kind of get the feeling sometimes that if the city decides to put up a stop sign at an intersection, there are people that are mad that it should have been a public meeting about it, and things like that. So it really set the bar high. And you're right. I agree that I've been covering politics in Knoxville for over 30 years, and that is the best example
absolutely
of public process and transparency.
Engage KCDC. Even on something like this, you could engage them. Maybe engage the East Tennessee Community Design Center, headed by former Vice Mayor Dwayne Grieve. I mean, there are organizations out there that can help with that stuff.
Yeah. One thing that none of them can help with, what a segue, is that happened last week is David Henderson, who was the former chief of the Knox County Sheriff's Office Narcotics Fund, pleaded guilty in federal court to dipping into the till there. And nobody can help him except his attorney, and he has pleaded guilty. He is basically, it was a scheme that he ran from 2011 to 2018, the time that he was the head of the narcotics unit. Of course, they have a drug fund where they take seized drug money and they can keep it and use it for law enforcement purposes. And also they get federal grants that can go in there and use for law enforcement purposes. That's where they screwed up here, one of the places. But Henderson decided to use that as a slush fund, apparently. He has confessed to doing that anyway.
Yeah.
He would use money out of the drug fund or they have a credit card off the fund too, so you can use it to buy all kinds of stuff. $138,000 worth of Apple electronics for people, and he did this for himself, his family, his friends, his employees,
his employer.
This was something that he tried to kind of cover his tracks by he would tell a subordinate to go buy stuff, give them the narcotics unit card, and they'd go, get a couple of computers, and they would order a couple of computers and things like that. So that went on for a very long time. I mean, it was to the point where there were people who received electronics that he bought or had someone buy from the fund, and then a few years later he would buy them a new one, and then they would take the old one and give to a family member or something like that. I mean, this is a multi-generational scheme. Anyway, he got caught.
Thank goodness.
One of the and has pleaded guilty. He faces up to he pleaded guilty to one count of defrauding the federal government, essentially, and faces up to 5 years in prison. A couple of years after that of supervisory probation, and then or parole, and then fines and all kinds of other financial things. One of the things that came out about this, though, was one of the big beneficiaries of this was his former boss, former sheriff, J.J. Jones. According to the plea agreement that we got hold of, they bought, for the primary stuff was his duck blind. They built him a duck blind somewhere, private property. They had a sheriff's employee who designed it. They had sheriff's employees who built it on the clock. So wherever this is, they had sheriff's deputies there working construction on a private project for the sheriff when they should have been. These are narcotics unit people. They should have been out going after
busting
drug dealers.
So, really, if all true, terribly, terribly disturbing. Yeah. And you hope the government will go after everybody involved.
Yeah, Jones had some other benefited other ways, and a lot of it had to do with the duck hunting thing. And they bought a mat for his duck boat, materials for his.
There's no reason to believe any of those ducks were smuggling drugs.
Highly doubtful. But
Canada geese, maybe. But I don't for a minute believe it about ducks.
Yeah, they're bringing the meth in from Canada. But anyway, now Jones has not been charged. I'll be very clear about that. He's not been charged. No one else has been charged, to our knowledge, on who's been involved in this. Although apparently dozens of people were involved in it. One thing that is coming up is federal judge Tom Varlin has not signed off on this yet. He has to sign off on the plea agreement for it to go into effect. Once it does go into effect, under the terms of the agreement, Henderson cannot be prosecuted for any other crimes arising from this, with the possible exception of if there's stuff he should report to the IRS and he doesn't report it to the IRS, they can go after tax stuff. Other than that, but no criminal charges on anything arising from this.
Can he be compelled to testify against those?
Part of the agreement is he has to cooperate, and so and it obviously has as far as the plea agreement goes, because in the plea agreement he talks about these things. So I don't know obviously the things that he's talked about with the Attorney General's office or the federal attorney's office, and how that plea agreement works out. My guess is he does have to cooperate fully. That's usually the case. It goes. I don't know what that means for Jones. He is
currently running for his sheriff again.
Yeah, he says I was able to talk to him the other day that once Barlin signs it, he will speak about it publicly. That he's
good.
He's waited until this has played itself out, and then once it's signed, he is going to address it, which leads you to believe that his attorney's not heard that he is under suspicion for stuff. So, but we'll just kind of find out about that. Yes, he is running for election next year to the he served 2 terms, was term limited, sat out, and the 2 terms that Tom Spangler was in office has been in office. Spangler can't run for because of term limits. So Jones is running. Lots of other folks running though too. The assistant chief deputy at Matt Evans at the sheriff's office just announced he is running. Michael Davis, who's a retired federal agent and the husband of State Rep Lane Davis, is running. The former assistant chief deputy Brent Gibson's running. Chief deputy Bernie Line is running. There's a lot of.
They all have one thing in common: they're all part of the sheriff's department,
and they're all Republicans.
Yeah.
No Democrat has signed up yet.
Well, who was the last Democrat that got elected countywide in Knox County?
I want
to say it was Randy Nichols as Attorney General.
It would just about have to be Nichols, and
that's been 16 years or so.
Yeah. So,
Republican primaries are generally speaking the general election for countywide races.
That's true. I know people who are who typically vote Democratic and would prefer to vote Democratic, who have voted in the Republican primary in the county elections precisely to vote for or against a particular candidate in the Republican primary for sheriff usually, but the other offices as well.
Right.
Anyway, that is...
We can just write in Meg McMuffin. That's always the fun one.
Meg McMuffin is always a good one to write in.
I always say in one race where there's no real challenge, even if it's one where there's only one candidate, for the last 10 or 15 years, I always write in Bob Dylan in some race.
I like to write myself in on those just so that I can make sure I can go back and check the write-ins. And when I see mine, then I know my ballot went through the process.
There you go. I hadn't thought about that as a reason for a vote for Bob Dylan, but we're both from Duluth, Minnesota, so...
About the only thing that you have in common with Bob Dylan. Anyway.
Both born Jewish.
Okay.
I mean, we can get the guitar out and we can sing. We can have him sing a little bit.
I don't want to hear Mike Cohen sing. Sorry, Mike. You don't want to hear me sing either.
Nobody wants to hear me sing.
Well,
I do. I think I want both. I think I want a duet out of you guys now. I think I want that.
Well, we'll sing a duet. When you let the film crews in to see the marble floors and the gold and the antique Chinese vases and everything else that you have in your studio,
and the offensive Green Bay Packer memorabilia.
Offensive Green Bay Packer memorabilia,
says the Minnesota boy.
Yes. The last thing we're going to hit to that happened last week was the has to do with the sales tax referendum that's on the ballot. The city mayor, Indya Kincannon, and some other people in the city have formed an organization called Neighbors for Knoxville. It is an advocacy group urging people to vote for the referendum. They had their kickoff on Thursday at West Hills Park, John Bynum West Hills Park. They are going to get out there. Some prominent people in there. Will Skelton, the godfather of greenways in Knoxville,
fine man,
and Brandon Bruce, a businessman here in Knoxville. There's several others who are active in this, and they think that primarily it's because of the things that the new funding will bring in which is greenways, parks, sidewalks, infrastructure, those kinds of things.
But none of them specifically identified.
Oh, no, some of them are.
Okay, some of them are.
Yeah,
but I mean, when it was rolled out, it was pretty, I think part of the problem is the sales tax was rolled out in a very generic way.
Yeah, now when they first rolled it out, they didn't have it. They do have a list now. I mean, some of them are quite specific. Some of them aren't quite as specific. I mean, they talk about the sidewalks that they want to build. Now they're going to focus on the parental responsibility zones, which is a mile around schools. And they talk about the specific schools where those are going to go in. They talk about specific parks that are going to get improvements, things like that. There are some projects they can't do that about. For instance, the way the plan would be to set aside $10 million a year for affordable housing. That could go anywhere in the city, and depends on the project that comes before them. But it's money that would be available for them to invest.
And I work on some affordable housing, and without some sort of government assistance, whether it's a tax break or whatever, the math doesn't work to build affordable housing.
You cannot build affordable housing without subsidies of some sort. Period.
Yes.
The end. And the reason is as you well know, that land, labor, and lumber all cost the same, no matter what you charge for rent.
Yes.
The basic materials. Now, like if you have a luxury apartments, you're going to have fancier doorknobs and solid interior doors and things like that that'll cost
much higher rent.
But as the main stuff, the foundation, the roof, the walls,
retaining walls,
the labor,
runoff detention,
the labor, and the land costs themselves. That's all the same whether you rent to someone who relies on Section 8 vouchers, or you rent to someone who
it's a very tough business,
is very wealthy. So it's anyway. But there's a lot of money in this that would go to that. You can't say right off the bat, oh yeah, we're going to build at this point 3 years from now we're going to build an affordable housing unit in North Knoxville. You can't say that. But anyway, they are going to be out advocating for that. I don't know of an organized opposition group that is out there. If there is, you can always contact me and I'll report on it. But I don't know if they need it.
I don't think they do.
Yeah, and this is another topic that I think that would have benefited the administration by a smoother rollout. They introduced this in the middle of the budget deliberations for this what is now this year, the fiscal year, when it has nothing to do with that. And
council races where the administration would hope to get council people they can work with.
Right. And so,
the other thing I would have, when I'd rolled it out, identified something very specific that people could get behind, such as saying, we're proposing the sales tax increase. The first thing it will help fund is replacing the Gay Street Bridge.
That, very, 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 very nicely done, Mr. Cohen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And if I can figure it out, it's obviously not rocket science.
Anyway, that's going to be a group that we'll be following, and as we follow this topic up until Election Day. That's all we have time for this week about stuff that happened last week. There are a lot more did happen that we can't get to. But if you subscribe to CompassKnox.com, you'll be able to read all that stuff in our daily newsletter and on our website. This coming week, we've got some, of course, we have the holiday. We've got Labor Day. So rest from your labors on Monday and get back to work on Tuesday, because City Council and County Commission are both going to. City Council is going to have the regular meeting. Mackenzie's item is not going to be on the agenda, but
it'll be on the agenda, but postponed.
It'll be on the agenda, but if all goes according to plan, it'll be withdrawn, postponed anyway. So, kind of an interesting thing that is going to be on there is, well, we won't go into that because we're running out of time. But there's an interesting insurance matter that's on there. So, breaking news. We'll report on that in the coming week. Also, County Commission is having its reorganization meeting on Tuesday at 1:00 in the main assembly room of the City County building. That's when they elect a chair. They elect members to various committees and those kinds of things. They do that every year, and so they will be meeting to do that on Tuesday. Then finally,
and I think we'll keep the leadership they have. I think Chairman Gina Oster will get another term.
I'm not surprised. She seems to have a good have been able to handle those duties with a steady hand, and
I agree.
I would not be surprised if there's a challenge, particularly from maybe not Fox himself, but Andy Fox. And
that'll get 3 votes.
But yeah, some of the more conservative members would.
And Gina already has a very conservative candidate running against her for re-election next year in the 3rd district, which is another reason I think the majority of commissioners will not unseat her while she's in a re-election campaign.
All right, that's some good insights there, Mike. Appreciate that. The last item that's coming up that we know of this week is the University of Tennessee Knoxville Campus Advisory Board is meeting. That is, it says advisory board, but they do things like approve the preliminary approval for the UTK budget, things like that. They'll be meeting on Friday to talk about campus stuff, and there will be other things that happen, of course, during the week. We'll be there to cover them. Want to say thanks again to Mike Cohen. Thanks, Mike, for showing up and making this a much more pleasurable experience. I don't have to talk to Seth as much when you're here. Seth, I didn't say that because, I love you and appreciate everything you do as our producer. I also want to thank Will Wright for providing our music. And Mike, say goodbye, everybody.
Thank you. I appreciate your having me, even with the Packers stuff here. And, I actually was on, this is my second Compass podcast appearance, and my first was your very first podcast talking about city council election appearance.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you got better memory than I do. But and I feel really bad because you were talking about the Green Bay Packers stuff. I feel really bad that I didn't wear any Alabama gear.
Yeah,
because that way you would have you could spread the hate around to me and to Seth.
I don't hate Alabama. They're a good team.
Huh?
I hate the Packers.
Oh, that's the Duluth in you coming out. Anyway, well, thanks, Mike, for showing up. It's always a pleasure and always something when I talk with you. And we will be back next week with another installment of Compass Points.
CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. If you'd like to learn more about the topics discussed on today's podcast, go to CompassKnox.com and subscribe for in-depth coverage and much more. And many thanks to William Wright for composing our theme song. Compass Points is a partnership of Barking Shark Media and Barbarian Productions, and recorded by Lord Seth A. Barber at Barbarian Studios, Knoxville, Tennessee.